Good evening. Tonight's movie was the first werewolf movie, at least of this cycle and for Hollywood, but not the Wolfman itself. I think that this is the only instance where the movie represented on the cover and the first one listed on the back is not chronologically the first in the series. It's the first here, the Wolfman, and then Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, all of these Wolfman movies, but then at the bottom, that starts 1941. At the bottom, you have 1935, and then 1946. So She-Wolf of London was mixed in here, but I guess it's part of this. I don't know. I will see how it shakes out. But chronologically, as far as when they were made, Werewolf of London was first. And it was the first Hollywood werewolf movie made. It's always very exciting for me to I don't know why, but to watch an old black and white movie that I have never seen before. It's great to watch the ones that I'm familiar with also, because obviously if I'm watching an old black and white movie again, it's not because somebody else wanted to watch it in all likelihood, it's because I love it. But to see, it's how I think some people feel about listening to records instead of CDs or MP3s or anything like that. I like the pops and crackles in the background noise, hardly any music, so you really hear the people are what you're listening to and what they're doing. And I had never seen this movie before. I've seen The Wolfman. I'll keep it turned around. I'd never seen Werewolf of London before. There's a picture from it back here somewhere, so that's what will represent it. But it was interesting. It was also pretty standard. These guys in a foreign country or among foreign non-British people, and he's on a scientific expedition, and he gets attacked by a werewolf, and he brings it back to London, and then there's a curse, and he reads about the curse when he realizes he has it, and he has to deal with it. So it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. But werewolves aren't really my monsters. I like vampires, and I like the Phantom, and I like the Gill Man. And I like the Bride of Frankenstein. Speaking of the Bride of Frankenstein, no, she's not the wife because she gets proposed to by another man, but I think that she's like the intended love interest for the Werewolf of London is played by Valerie Hobson. Hobson? Yes, not Hodgson, Hobson. And she was also the Bride of Frankenstein, the literal Bride of Frankenstein, as in she played the woman who was married to Frankenstein. She did not play the monster's mate, that was Elsa Lanchester, but she was the literal Bride of Frankenstein, and she was very good in that movie. So again, actors getting reused. Also, I don't think I mentioned that Dwight Fry is also in the Bride of Frankenstein. Maybe I did mention it. He's not the Hunchback character, because the Hunchback character dies in Frankenstein, so they gave him a different role, and then took away a big chunk of that role for censor reasons, I guess. But so more connected universe stuff. Valerie Hobson and Dwight Fry. Let's see, I don't have much to say about this one because I didn't come into it with expectations from having seen it before. Oh, actually, I could talk about the other movie that we watched. I think it's 2012's The Raven, starring John Cusack as Edgar Allan Poe. A movie that I've been curious about for a while because it came out when I was first really getting into. I hadn't read Edgar Allan Poe yet, but he was my kind of guy. And I was really into that. Also, the idea of literary figures becoming police detectives in some way was intriguing to me. And also, I forget why, but I was really into John Cusack at the time. Now, I'm merely appreciative, as I am of the vast majority of artists, but at the time I was really into him, and he was on WTF with Mark Maron on Monday, so he did not talk about The Raven. He talked about other things, but still, funny coincidence, because The Raven was already on schedule to be watched with this. Um, I liked they had some interesting. This was before Henson, and they had some interesting plant puppets because the guy is I think he's a herbology is what it is in Harry Potter. Botanist. I think he was a botanist, and that's why he was in Tibet. I'm pretty sure it was to collect this flower that blooms by moonlight. And then he had a ray that created artificial moonlight that he was trying to use to get the flower to bloom, because these people have to have a hobby. And while in Tibet, he gets bitten. But when we see his conservatory with all the interesting plants, there's a plant with tentacles, and I think it's got like a fuzzy kind of mouth. And somebody, the Wolfman's assistant, feeds a frog to it. And I guess that there are plants that eat small animals. I doubt this was a real one, but interesting puppets. There was a Venus flytrap. I don't know if there's a Venus flytrap. There are various flytraps. But that was interesting, that they had an interesting angle to bring in biological stuff. There's a scene at a zoo. So you had some real wolves reacting to the Wolfman. And there was a love story. There was something nefarious. And there was something that I hadn't heard in previous vampire movies, including the Wolfman, I'm pretty sure. Part of the curse was that either he has to eat one of the flowers that he brought back, which another character steals. I'm not exactly sure why, but I guess maybe he's also a werewolf. He might be the werewolf who bit. I wasn't clear if he was the werewolf who bit the main guy. But if the werewolf eats one of these flowers, then the curse will not be permanent, I think what it was. Or if he kills somebody every night of the full moon, then the curse will not be permanent. And I just thought that you were a werewolf until you were bludgeoned by silver, or shot by silver, or something silver penetrated you in a fatal way. So I don't know. Werewolves are not my forte, and since they're also not real, there's no settled science on them anyway. So they can do whatever they want, and that was interesting. It gave the plot its structure. And we'll see, ultimately, if I end up liking it more than The Wolfman. Tomorrow night is going to be an interesting one, because it is Dracula's Daughter, which is based on the novella Carmilla, and I do have a passage from Carmilla that I recorded that I will put up on YouTube during the day. So I'm excited for that one. I don't have, I guess, much more to say about this. The next werewolf movie is The Wolfman, chronologically, but I don't know when that's going to be exactly. But should be interesting. This is, again, uncharted territory, a string of movies that I haven't seen, but am just as interested in, because it's interesting to look at. Now sequels are, and tie-ins and cinematic universes are just the coin of the realm. You assume that even if there is not one planned or announced, they want there to be one. But back then, it was they made Dracula based on a novel, and I don't know exactly what the thinking was. It was successful, and therefore they tried to do more with it. But I don't know if they had thought, I should... that book back there that I have occasionally held up doesn't say, but I would like to learn more about the thought process behind all of these movies. That there are these 33 movies that go together as a set. 33, just 30. 30 movies that go together as a set because of characters crossing over, meeting each other. The explanation might just be Hollywood was new and getting its bearings and playing around. Maybe there will be more documentaries that will be available on the discs that will explain such things. But anyway, Dracula's Daughter tomorrow should be very interesting, and look for the passage from the novella Carmilla, and I'll talk more about Carmilla tomorrow. Have a very nice midnight.